We're live? All right. What's up, everyone? This is Dr. Tameka Ellington. I am co-curator of the Textures exhibition, Textures of History and Art of Black Hair at Kent State University, with my partner, Dr. Joseph Underwood, and we are here today to discuss critical conversations in regards to the Black hair care industry, and I have the honor of being here with my sister, Ladosha Wright, and our two guests, Miss Goldie Jenkins and Miss Sheryl Mitchell, both who are legends in the hair industry. They both have had a tremendous contribution that they've been making to the hair industry over years, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this live. Thank you all for everyone who has joined us today. I hope you enjoy, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Yes, so Textures, for those of you that don't know, Textures is a show. We have about 200 pieces, 200 artifacts, starting all the way back from ancient Egyptian times to contemporary artwork, all specializing in looking at the Black hair culture. Dr. Joseph Underwood and I, we conceptualized the show based on about 20 years of research that I've done all about Black hair. The show is a show that really represents the community of Black hair, represents the struggle or the hair politics, as well as a celebration of Black joy. And so throughout this time that we've had the show open, it's been open now since September 9th. And since we've had the show open, we've done various different types of programming. And this is just one of those programs that we have contributed to the show. All of our programs will also be available on our website. You'll get an opportunity to revisit, relook at other things that we've done, and just enjoy. If you have not had an opportunity to come to Textures, I invite you to go to Kent State University in Kent, Ohio to visit the show. It'll be open until August of this year, and you'll have the opportunity to check it out. Bring groups. We love entertaining and hosting groups of students as well as organizations to come and visit with Textures. And so I will start by just introducing the amazing panel that we have here today. So Mrs. Goldie Jenkins, she graduated from Ursuline College cum laude with a bachelor's degree in business administration, where she was inducted into the Walk Hall of Fame and received a Presidential Award of Excellence and Internship Award of the Year. She served as Senior Customer Service Representative at IdeaStream, a nonprofit public media network for WVIZ PBS, 90.3 WCPN, and WCLB 104.9. During her tenure at IdeaStream, she met many influential people that encouraged her to use her voice. That's always wonderful, right? Yes. Mrs. Jenkins holds a license in cosmetology, which is her true passion. She is a hair coloring specialist who served as a member of the Ohio Association of Beauticians. She also trained in the application of makeup and theatrical makeup from Barbizon. After meeting Christina Jenkins, inventor of the hair weave process, Christina became her mentor, instructor, and mother-in-law. Mrs. Goldie Jenkins is thankful for the olive branch that Christina Jenkins passed down and would like to acknowledge her for all that she's contributed to the hair and beauty industry. Mrs. Goldie prides herself in being able to continually reinvent herself. Absolutely. And our other guest is Miss Sheryl Mitchell. She's also a licensed cosmetologist and has her instructor's license in cosmetology. Her journey began at a very young age in the hair and beauty industry. Her mother, Rose West, and her aunt, Christina Jenkins, groomed her to work in the industry of hair weaving. She was very fortunate to have an aunt who revolutionized the beauty industry with her weave process. Christina Jenkins trained Sheryl Mitchell as a hair weave technician and instructor. Mrs. Mitchell has been a hair weave technician for more than 30 years. She had a lucrative career in the hair and beauty industry, and she traveled with Christina Jenkins throughout Europe with teaching beginners and advanced courses in hair weaving. During the late 1960s, it was not very common for women of color to have the opportunity to travel through Germany, Paris, and London promoting their businesses. And so this opportunity that they had was a very unique opportunity. Neither Christina Jenkins nor Sheryl spoke German or French, and therefore they had trained clients through interpreters. After returning from Europe, Christina's hair weave was acknowledged in the hair and beauty industry all over the world and became universal. Mrs. Sheryl Mitchell is very humbled to have been a part of making history. Yes, yes. And my sister, Ladosha Wright, entrepreneur, author, and activist, also cosmetologist. Wright's unique approach to cosmetology combines her career as a former outreach worker with her career as cosmetologist using trichology. Is that right? Trichology. The study of scalp and hair to empower the masses to understand and care for their hair using the right principles of right products, the right tools, and the right techniques. She is the owner of the Reverence Team Salon, and this is actually where we're at right now. We're actually in Ladosha's spot, the Reverence Design Team Salon. She offers educational classes to licensed professionals. In 2012, she helped change an Ohio law regarding the education of cosmetology. To date, she continues as an activist and policy advocate. She has been featured in several local and national publications. She has published 3 books, Curly Hair Adventures, and What They Don't Tell You at the Salon, as well as The Beauty and Barber Survival Plan. Her books are sold on Amazon, Target, and Walmart. I didn't know that. Yes. All right. Yes. She is the creator of the Wright hair products and Wright polish. Yes. Wright enhances her dynamic phenomenon. Excuse me. Wright enhances this dynamic phenomenon in her career as a consultant in various hair care companies and manufacturers. She worked tirelessly to collaborate with the Textures exhibition. She has been a godsend and a blessing to us since we began. Currently, she's a consultant with the Ohio-based top-selling world-first reverse hair dryer Rev Air, which is one of our contributors to the Textures exhibition. We were blessed to be able to get a sponsorship from Rev Air, so thank you again, Ladosha.
Thank you.
Yes, and Neighborhood Connections that provides support for those dealing with issues from hair discrimination. In 2019, Ladosha was invited to the Gambia, located in West Africa. For this invitation, she created Textures Intercultural Exchange 2019, a humanitarian and development aid endeavor to support and advance the education of cosmetology in the Gambia and Senegal. She continues to host charitable events, donate her services, and fundraise for her library, the Wright Library of the, you're gonna have to pronounce this for me now.
Gay and Jural Skills Academy.
Gay and Jural Skills Academy, located in the Gambia. Yes, yes, thank you, yes. So I am surrounded by excellence, surrounded by excellence. So we're gonna start off, since this is Black History Month, one of the things that we definitely want to do is recognize those African Americans who had a contribution to the Black hair care industry. So ladies, what are some notable people that come to mind? Of course, we all know Madam C.J. Walker. What are some others that come to mind that were major contributors to the hair care industry?
Well, I would like to say Annie Turbo Malone.
Absolutely, yes.
Because she and Christina's ideas were similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then too, she was the first woman millionaire.
Yes, she was, yeah.
And with this product, it went towards African American women at that time. They didn't have anything for their hair.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So we owe a lot to her, our fellow cosmetologist.
Yes. And what's interesting, I think, is that not a lot of people know about Annie Turbo Malone. Yeah, Annie Malone was also she was Madam C.J. Walker's educator.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, she educated Madam C.J. Walker, and also she owned the very first beauty school called Pearl College.
Oh,
yes, yes. And so if you are interested in learning more about Annie Turbo Malone, if you go to the Kent State University Textures exhibition, we have some authentic Pearl College cosmetology hair licenses that Annie Turbo Malone dedicated to her students. And so anybody else?
Yeah, well, I always think of the person who inspired my career.
Yeah.
And that would be Olive Benson.
Okay.
So Olive Benson, she pioneered hair coloring for textured hair. She definitely, made it possible, for us to have our hair colored. I also think of Mr. Ted Gibson, Greg Gilmore,
Yes.
Camille Friend. Like, a lot of people don't know Camille Friend, but she did a lot, in Hollywood, a lot of movies and things like that. So these are the people who really stick out to me a lot. So I love Greg, I love Ted Gibson
Yes,
a lot.
yes. Greg is a superstar.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
he is. Yes, he is.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Anyone else that you might want to make note of? Miss Cheryl? Anybody that comes to mind, Miss Cheryl?
My auntie,
Yes.
Christina Jenkins.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. And that she's really the reason why we're here too. So as we get further into the discussion, you all will learn more about the contributions that Christina Jenkins made to the hair care industry. And so, of course, we are here to discuss in more detail the contributions of the little-known legend, Christina Jenkins, inventor of the hair weave. And I think it's amazing what she had been able to do for our industry. And so Miss Goldie and Miss Cheryl, can you guys give us a little bit of a brief, history about the childhood of Christina Jenkins and what it was like for her growing up, and how did she get into the hair care industry?
Well, she come from a family, if you include her parents as well as her siblings, a family of 10.
Okay.
There was 8 siblings and her parents. Her parents were sharecroppers. Her grandmother, or maternally, she was a slave. So she came from humble beginnings, but they believed in education. They started off in Louisiana. They moved over to Galveston. She was able to go to a Catholic school, and there I think her mindset changed. Okay, she was taught to go after your dreams. Her parents wanted her to be a teacher. I don't think that was her call.
Yeah.
She married right after she got out of college. She married a musician, so they traveled. They went to Chicago. She took up a designing class for wigs. And that's where she got the idea is, how can I secure the hair onto the natural hair, where the wigs won't fall off? And she became obsessed with this.
Yeah.
That all her nieces and nephews and what have you, that she would try to experiment.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. That's where it began.
Yeah. Wow.
Her curiosity, because she was, she was going into math, to become a math teacher and what have you. But she realized that wasn't her fault.
Yeah. 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 Miss Cheryl?
Yes, well, I was raised, my mother, Rose West, was Christina's sister. My mother was a hair weave technician also, in Chicago. And she later moved to California where she did hair weaving. And hair weaving has been in my family all my life. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So it's been a good life.
Yes.
It's been good.
Yes.
It's been good.
May I interrupt? When they were in Cleveland, your aunt and your mom, they started off in a one-room storefront.
Wow.
And what they did was, Christina always wanted it private. What they're doing now, they have lofts. But what she did was she put a binder up. So while they were weaving, you couldn't see. Okay. And that became her trademark. It had to be private.
So she could secure it. So she could, definitely keep that privacy. And yes.
All throughout hair weaving has always been private. You would never walk into her salon and seen anyone on the floor getting a hair weave.
Wow.
It's what it is now.
Wow.
Where salons have lost. Back then it was a loft
Wow.
in that area.
It's always been private.
Wow. Wow.
Well, internet would not have a match with that. Nowadays, they show you right there, right before your very eyes, how they transform from no hair to hair, and
Right.
they show all the secrets. So her trademark was that this was coveted for the client, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, wow.
Okay.
And that gave the clients confidence
Ah,
and privacy.
yeah.
They didn't
yeah.
have to worry about running into their neighbor
Yeah,
or their colleague,
right.
their minister, or
Okay.
what have you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's probably part of what made her service so special, that she was able to maintain that that confidentiality, amongst her clients.
When you went to one of her salons, it was more elite. It was, they dressed up to come there.
Yeah.
It was very professional, and it was kept. You felt so comfortable.
Mhm.
I remember one time, I'll give you a perfect example. One client came to the salon. She didn't even know, she didn't see the person that was in there.
Uh-huh.
She heard the woman's voice.
Okay.
Just heard a person's voice that she knew. And she could handle it. You see what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that?
No.
Because I won't mention names.
Okay.
But it was so kept so privately. Like you might come in one door and go out another door.
Okay.
Wow, wow. That's top secret then, yes.
That's
yes.
super secret.
Yeah, that's super secret,
That was
yeah.
super secret.
Yeah. And so for those of our audience and myself too, I mean, this is all new knowledge for me. What exactly is the hair weave technique? I know it's very different than what we think of when we think of hair weave today. So what was unique about the technique that Christina Jenkins invented?
It was a natural welt. It was done with the apparatus pole and 3 cords. Okay, where she intertwined your hair into the cords, where it made it flat and smooth. It wasn't lumpy as per se maybe a braid or cornrow would be. And then all the hair was made up hand wefted. Everything was hand wefted.
That's utterly amazing.
Everything was made of strand by strand, and everything was 100% human hair.
Wow.
So it wasn't like she went to the beauty supply place around the corner and bought the hair.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Sometimes she would go overseas herself and get the hair, or sometimes it would be shipped to.
Wow.
So she really pioneered what we're seeing today,
Yeah.
where I'm just gonna call them weave slayers. And you're right, that people kind of laugh at weave technicians, but I can tell you I've worked alongside some absolutely creative, magnificent technicians, and weaving is not a joke. I mean, that is a skill that needs to be respected, but it looks like people could just go and buy this hair anywhere. But you're saying she basically, not only did she revolutionize, but she pioneered the process to be able to go and buy this hair in bulk.
Wow.
She bought the hair in bulk, and then we had a hair technician to make it up, strand by strand. But it was made up to the client's individual needs. Everyone wasn't the same.
Yeah.
You might have a different color, different texture, a different length. And the hair lasts anywhere from 6 months to a year. Sometimes it lasts longer.
Wow.
You can swim in it. You can shake it.
Wow.
You can straighten it. You can curl it. It wasn't coming off.
You can swim in there.
You can swim in it.
Right.
Bring that back.
Because it was 100% human hair.
Yeah.
But it didn't come off though.
It didn't come off.
Wow.
It did not come off, and as I said before, you could feel comfortable being out and going swimming.
Wow.
You could feel comfortable with somebody rubbing your head, because now I understand they really wasn't going to feel that well.
Right.
Because everything was so flat.
Now, was this for women and men? Or?
As well as men, because she also, Sheryl was she was a technician for the men's weaving.
Were you?
So this man weave is not new?
No.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
Initially, when I became involved with hair, we wove men's hair. Now it's like men wear toupees,
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. But back in the day, when I first, initially got started, men had wefts like women. They had a number of wefts, and they had patterns, that they had. So it's different now
Yeah.
than it used to be. But yeah, we we did the men.
And so did you have good retention with the men? Were they returning back to get this
Oh, sure.
reinstalled?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Oh,
Wow.
yeah. They received tightenings as in what they did every 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to interject here. I think some of the men back then, I think Cheryl still has them as clients.
We won't give any names here.
We're not
okay?
giving any
Well,
names
yeah.
out.
I have some diehard guys.
Okay.
With the old-fashioned type, you know.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. A few.
Right, it's so
Well, that
cool.
speaks in
That's-
volumes.
Yes, it
to
does.
The quality
Absolutely.
of the technique, and because you see a lot nowadays where you have, like I remember one time I visited Atlanta, and it was like 2 ladies and a needle. You know how they had 2 men in a truck? So they could just like, they have these, I guess like blueprints, if you will, for how you could sew or weave one really quick.
Uh-huh.
So they have all these various techniques that you can, you know, get this weave one to the hair quickly. But what you're saying, initially, this was all about customization. This was not something you could cookie cut.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was a process.
It was a process, and it still is a process. Anyone who came in for a hair weave had to go through a consultation.
Mm.
And that's when you took a measuring tape and you measured their scalp, maybe from ear to ear,
Wow.
from crown to crown, or wherever they may have needed it.
Wow. And this technique was patented in the 1950s by Christina, right?
1952.
1952. Okay.
And then in 1965, she made another patent, and that was with the snap-on. Where you just snap it on and snap it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Wow.
Now, the European market took that over more so.
Okay.
That went over with them more so than what it did over here in the United States.
Uh-huh.
In some
Okay.
respects, I would say. Would you agree, Cheryl?
Yes.
Mm.
Because we were dealing with a totally different ethnicity there.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Did Hollywood come in to call? Did you ever get calls from Hollywood people to have this service done?
You know what? I went through a lot of her pictures the other day.
Uh-huh.
And it was
Speak
quite a
about
few. It was a lot of different stars. I'm trying to think of them.
Well, we don't want you to tell us.
I'm not going to tell them.
You know,
It was quite a few
Tina
of
Turner
them.
to call. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know that.
It was quite a few of them that she engaged in.
Oh, okay.
Stars.
Yeah.
But you did get calls from Hollywood to get that service done.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. What were some of the challenges that you remember Christina Jenkins having, being a business owner, a Black woman in the 1950s and 60s, you know, building her business? What were some of the things that she faced? What were some challenges that she had?
Well, you know, back in that era, women were housewives.
Yeah.
And they were quiet, docile, and what have you. And to be a Black woman in that era, basically they was nursemaids and did a lot of domestic work. So she thought outside the box. But although she couldn't get along, she was married, so her husband had to be the head of the company. He had to be the president of the company.
Wow.
Because she couldn't be, because he had to be the one to get the loans.
Wow.
Wow. I couldn't imagine
paving
that.
the way.
Oh my
Like
God.
we can't even. I can't even get that through like my skull that your husband had to well, I don't want to say give permission because he wanted to do that for her, but basically women could not use their business acumen. It had to come via the husband.
Wow.
And if you didn't have a husband, I guess you were SOL. Huh?
Well, you had to have a brother or uncle or
Oh,
someone,
wow.
some male figure
Wow.
to represent you. Because at that time they wasn't giving Black women loans.
Wow.
Especially minority women, they didn't give loans.
Wow.
You know, women's rights didn't start until when the civil rights came,
Yeah.
it allowed for all women to have rights, not
Yeah.
just the Black woman.
Right.
Okay, I'm not going to go any further than that.
Okay, we carry some people in. I hear you.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
right.
we carry some people in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the other things about this conversation that was important for us to also discuss is the ownership of the hair care industry. And through research that I've done over time, I did a research project where I did what's called a content analysis, where I looked at businesses that were catering to Black people, not necessarily Black owned, but businesses catering to Black people from the 1900s all the way up through the early 2000s. And I wanted to find out a trend in regards to who actually owned those businesses. And it's almost kind of like a wave throughout history. It is most of the time, it was us, and sometimes it was other people, and so times like the 60s and 70s, that is a time in history when it was mostly us.
When we own our own business.
Right,
Not
right,
only did
right.
we own our own business, we owned our own buildings.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then and other times, like after the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power, Black is Beautiful movement, once those kind of like took a dive
Yes.
in the 1980s, then that's when it began to be owned mostly by white people, and other non-Black people, monopolized the Black hair care industry. And so that's something that I think is really important to discuss, because oftentimes Black people, the products that are on the market oftentimes are not produced by Black people.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. I'm gonna say this now, back in the 60s and 70s, we had our own grocery stores, we had our own communities.
Yeah.
So that made a difference, and then we thought as one in that era.
Yeah.
So when the 80s came, the dynamics changed.
Yeah.
Blacks were able to find jobs and what have you, so they didn't think about entrepreneurship.
Because it was out of necessity, wasn't it?
It was out of
It was out of
necessity
necessity.
at one time,
Yeah.
and that they stuck together to form a company or what have you. But once they were allowed to, move in a different area,
Integrate.
once they was allowed to integrate, they wanted to assimilate. Okay, so things became differently.
Yeah.
Then we thought that, I think we sold out in some respects. I'm sorry to say
yes,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we sold out, because I came from an era, and I remember when my dad, stepdad, and all of them owned their own business and what have you. Then I started seeing the grocery stores being owned by someone else, beauty shops being owned by someone else, just being owned. So what's happening to our community?
Yeah.
Well, I think that, in addition to the integration, I know that in my research, because I'm always working on something, I do see a lot of big acquisitions where the bigger companies were making, smaller companies some offers that they just couldn't refuse.
They couldn't refuse.
Number one. Then
That
number
is true.
two,
That is
a
true.
lot of owners of the companies wanted their children to go to college and get an education that didn't necessarily fall back into the company.
Right.
So let's say, for example, if I own Ladosha's, shampoo and conditioner, I sent my son to college.
Right.
He probably wanted to be an attorney. So then there was no one to carry forth that legacy.
Right.
Not to mention if I got a very nice lucrative offer on the table to just walk away from the toils, because there's a flip side to being an entrepreneur as well.
That is true.
So I think that we see a combination of three things, where you have integration, you have it's not going back into the family,
Right.
and then number three, just a very nice, lucrative offer, to be bought out so that you can, take care and, so I think that definitely, came about as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so may I interject in that?
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pass it around, I'm very sorry for that. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. I understand exactly what you're saying, but then too, you have to look at the communities now. We're the only ones that really sell out to others.
Wow.
I could be wrong, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but whereas if we If we unite our dollars together, we're stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, if we decide to stop spending $1 in the United States, think about what would happen.
Yeah.
So we have power in our dollars.
Yeah.
True.
And it is power in numbers.
Yeah. It's so sensitive. I mean, you know, it's touchy. It's controversial because we want to get ahead. And there's actually one example that I can think of. I mean, my background is in fashion. Most of you all know that. And years ago, Sean Puffy Combs sold Sean John, and he sold it to a non-white company. Just recently, he had the opportunity to buy back Sean
That
John.
was beautiful.
Yes.
That was awesome.
So he bought it back, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But again, at that moment in time when he sold it, like you said, Ladosha, I'm sure it was an offer that he couldn't refuse.
Couldn't refuse it.
He couldn't refuse that offer.
And I mean, that's that PD word. That's those power dynamics.
Yeah.
That is true.
You know, that when you are an entrepreneur, I mean, in the world of being an entrepreneur, for most people, the bottom line is going to always be about the Benjamins.
Right.
Benjamin, it's going to be about the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And you do have a core of people who refuse that sellout.
Yeah.
You know, so we do have some companies that were acquired by other people through legal issues. Let's take K-Ville.
Right.
They were one of the oldest makers of pressing creams. And so they lost that recipe, you know, and so it was acquired through someone else. The family didn't necessarily sell it, but legally, you know. So you have some other issues that could be going on when you see things happening where the company necessarily didn't want to sell,
But they
didn't
they
sell,
had
but
to
they had
sell.
some, right. Maybe they lost the patent, or, you know,
Wow.
things like that took place. Maybe they didn't have the opportunity. Let's take Gary Morgan.
Yeah.
That
He
that's
never
true.
patented the no lie relaxer.
That's
He gets
true.
credit for it,
Right.
but you know, that's all he's getting. You know, he's getting the credit. I don't think he holds the U.S. patent for the sodium hydroxide relaxer.
Isn't it Jose Calva? I thought.
Jose Cuervo,
I think it's Jose Calva, isn't it?
I'm not
I'm not
sure.
quite sure.
Wow.
I'm not quite sure who holds that, but
It's a couple of inventions that Garrett Morgan didn't get credit for that he established.
So we see a lot of that, you know, in the beauty industry, where people will come up with things, and you know, they just they don't patent it, they didn't buy the name, and
Wow.
you know,
Maybe they
things of that
didn't
nature.
know.
Right.
It comes from education.
So that's expensive to buy.
Well, it's very expensive. And then the patent only lasts for so many years.
That's true.
Where you have to either add on something in order to maintain that patent.
Wow.
And then patents aren't, they're not cheap.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of shades. Everything is not just black and white. It's a lot of shades of gray.
Right.
in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
Right, and so to your point, Dr. Ellington, those again are some of those power dynamics that, you know, the consumer or the everyday people may not realize that these are the things that are taking place that causes a company to not be able to hold on to that legacy the way that they want. But we are pleased to say that K-Ville does have it back.
Oh,
And that's
good.
beautiful.
Yes,
That
and so
is
you
beautiful.
can go and check them out on social media. They are climbing back into the, you know, modern day, you know, world of, you know, just social media, e-commerce. So I'm a big fan of K-Ville. So
How do you spell it?
K-A-Y-V-E-L. So this-
K-A-Y-V-E-L.
yeah, so they were like out before, like Ultra Chic had the yellow press.
okay.
K-Ville had the blue one, and this was the anti-humectant. So they were ahead of the curve. Now you see all this language coming out. You know, so when you hear black people say, well, we stopped pressing because we didn't really want it greasy. K-Bell always had an alternative, but that was like the high end. And you still have some women were still holding on to lard. I'm sure in your research for the exhibit, you came across a lot of interesting things of what African Americans had to do to their hair to be presentable or acceptable or whatever you want to call it in society. So, and maybe you can elaborate on the one about the cornmeal. So that would be an example of what African Americans had to do to take care of their hair. Was, you know, can you talk about that?
So Dr. Joseph Underwood and I, when we were in the process of curating the textures exhibition, we got an opportunity to go out to San Diego to meet with one of our lenders. He actually is our largest lender. He lent us about 150 products from his collection. From his collection. His name is Dr. Willie Morrow. And yes, Dr. Morrow. And Dr. Morrow, when Dr. Joseph and I were at his warehouse, going through all the items that we wanted to select for the show, he said, well, you guys can't have the show without taking the corn grinder. And I, you know, throughout the time that I've been doing all this research, I'd never heard of the corn grinder being used in hair, you know, in hair care at all. And Dr. Morrow, we were honored to hear his, you know, take on what was going on in history and how the corn grinder was a major part of it. So basically, Dr. Morrow explained to us that enslaved Africans, because they didn't have a lot of materials or tools that they could use to take care of their hair, they actually would take corn. They would use basically a shucker, a corn shucker, a corn grinder. So they would put the corn in the shucker, grind up the corn, make a cornmeal, and this cornmeal was actually used to clean the hair. It was used to condition the hair. So any like bugs or dirt or whatever you would have in your hair, you would use the cornmeal and kind of pull it through your hair to clean your hair. And that was one of the things that they used. So they had to be, I mean, ingenious, you know?
So now in today's time, we have this Crown Act. You know, where they're saying, you know, we can't wear our hair to work. You can't, you know, your hairstyles like yours, Dr. Ellington, that's not
acceptable.
That's not professional.
It's not professional.
But here, what they don't understand is that historically, we were denied access to the right products, the right tools, and the right technique. And so we see today in the hair salon where African Americans are still holding on to those techniques of food products and putting this stuff in their hair. Where, you know, you had to do it back then because we didn't have it. But today, it's not a good thing. It wasn't good back then, but we had to do it.
But we had no other choice.
But today, I mean, the coconut oil is just, I'm ready to go to all the stores and say, stop! No more coconut! Put a sign up, do not sell, you know, the coconut oil and the olive oil, this stuff is getting out of control. And so these platforms having these types of interviews to help African Americans understand that we do have this rich history for textured hair
that's true.
That was healthy for our hair. Well, you know, we didn't have to do those things, but we still need to point out that there was this corn grinder, and that was the way to actually clean hair when you did not have.
I never knew that.
Me neither. Because when I saw it, remember, I was like, what is that?
And Ladosha, since you're talking about hair products, so you yourself, you're making strides in the black hair care industry. For those of you that don't know, Ladosha has her own hair products called the Wright Hair Products. One of the greatest qualities about your work that I admire is that you educate your clients about how to take care of their hair, and where do you see the hair care industry going now with all the work that you've done? And can you talk a little bit about your products?
I believe the hair care industry right now, the natural hair, I think, and I'm kind of paraphrasing Sheryl Morrow, who's the
Yeah.
daughter of Dr. Goldie Morrow, and she says that these fads, they have cycles of like 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
So we're now seeing a big drop is coming down in the natural hair movement. And
Absolutely, yeah.
and the natural, the Crown Act is now bringing to surface what lies beneath. And these are the things that, and then Dr. Joy DeGruy, you know, she's a world-renowned social scientist, and she talks about the perils of freeing Africans from slavery with nothing. No
Yeah.
one ever asked, what do you guys want? So in the hair industry, they still haven't asked, you know, women of color, what do you want?
What do you want?
We know that they're looking for something, but exactly what is that you're looking for?
Wow.
So in my career, it was birthed out of me being an outreach worker, where I was able to hear intimately that the answer, what do you want? And it was like across the board the same. I want the right products, I want the right tools, I want the right techniques for my hair.
Which
And
at
so
one time wasn't available.
it wasn't
Yeah,
available.
yeah.
And so now, to me, to answer your question, that is where the beauty industry will end up going, because social media, people are now able to just go back to the company and say, your stuff didn't work.
Yeah.
And so
we
now
have a lot more power now.
right, so now the companies
Because we
are
have more
gonna
spending power.
Yes,
yeah, and so
yeah.
the companies now will have to address that Afro textured hair is not a monolith. You know, and it's like, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Well, so we can't do the ethnic owl. I believe in the near future the ethnic owl will no longer exist. I'm almost for certain that is going to go away, because now the races are mixing and people can be who they want to be.
That's
A la
true.
Rachel Dolezal, she
Yeah.
was able to. She was
No,
able to be black.
I had her up. Yeah, no, you did not bring
She
her
was
up.
able to be black.
That's
You know, she was like, she got the braids in her hair.
Oh my God.
She
And
had
we
the
thought she
accent.
was she?
Yeah, and but she
Oh my
could.
God.
Well,
But that was her choice.
But and to her defense,
Oh my gosh, no, you better not.
I got them because mankind was finding, you know, on Africa, so she wanted to go there. She could. I'm not too far reach, Dr. Ellington. I'm trying to reach for it. So I may be cynical, but I believe that the consumer's voice will be heard.
Yeah.
And I believe the Crown Act is pushing it. And so
Yes, it
my
is.
job
Yes.
is I'm using the hashtag now. It's called Help Change the Narrative.
Yeah.
Where like this is a platform where we are now changing the narrative to say we have a history.
Yeah.
And everybody has something to pour into the diversity, because hair cannot be homogenized.
Yeah.
You know, it will never ever be able to be that way, but because of racism, and now we just come to find out that they're removing words like race and structural racism from a lot of doctrines and things of that nature, but it's not going to change anything.
Absolutely not.
There is an element where they still feel that, you know, that Afro hair has that animalistic, you know.
So this is where the Crown's at. Huh?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Ms. Goldie.
This is where the Crown's
Yes,
at.
yes.
Yeah, so we'll pass a law that says you can't discriminate, but now we need to help the people.
Yeah.
Because the companies will be saying, well, now they're coming in and we're afraid because they look like lions and tigers and bears.
Because
Why?
you're not emulating them anymore.
Right.
Because
So, but that
we're taking a stand and we're coming into our own.
yeah.
Wow.
And you still have some people that want to be free of their not that they're anti-wigs, they just like, I really want to take it off, but I don't know what to do.
What to do.
Yeah.
So in the
Yeah.
hashtag Help Change the Narrative, I'm basically just trying to get this groundswell of people to pour into their tips, so that we can begin to help. And then we do, and I'm so thankful for the first time that I know of in the history of the United States, a university has brought, you know, a cosmetologist onto the platform,
Yeah.
because you guys give this issue
Yeah.
validity and able to say we can do a lot more.
Yeah.
That's
Because
true.
you know, you guys are you go out and you write the policies for education, and
Yeah.
you know, you write the infrastructures for how schools and things, you know, so we need to get this over to academia
Yeah,
so that
that's
they can produce the teachers who write the curriculums and the textbooks, like the cross-section of the skin.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the cross-section of the skin? Like, this would be a good one. So it would be wonderful if we could, you know, use this platform when we talk about help change the narrative. Like, wouldn't it be nice if that cross-section of the skin could have a different color?
Yes, it would be.
And wouldn't it be nice if that
Yes.
hair could just kind of go back down?
Yeah,
So
yes.
when medical students
Right.
and dermatologists begin to teach and talk about issues with darker skins
Absolutely.
or people of African ancestry,
Absolutely.
whatever word, I'm not a dermatologist.
Get
so
rid
I'm
of
probably
the
using
default.
the wrong word.
Get rid of the default.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So these platforms are, because hairstylists, we're just always kind of looked at, this is the career where you dump the people off who didn't want to go to college, who couldn't pass, you know.
I don't know about that.
I really can't say, because a hairstylist is one of the most important
Absolutely.
in the community.
Mm-hmm.
You can do everything else, but most women, most men cannot do their own hair.
Yeah.
Okay, so hairstylists are very valued.
They are in our community, but once you step out, like when I was becoming a cosmetologist, right? I went to the school and they gave me the book,
Oh, yeah.
and it was one book.
It
Yeah.
was one
And
book
I said-
one mannequin.
I said,
Yes,
wait a
yes,
minute.
right there. Yeah.
I went to college, and I went to elementary school, I went to high school. I've never heard of a school with one book.
With one book.
And so I was
For
like,
everyone.
yeah, and I said, is this the same book, like used around, like throughout the United States? And they couldn't believe I was asking that question, and they said, oh, we have one of those.
Oh,
And I was like, what is one of those college girls? So it was like, I'm like, but to me, it wasn't a college girl. It's like, you know how they say, Jim Collins has a book called Good to Great. And then he says, success leaves clues, right?
Yeah.
So I've never been to a school where there was just one book.
Okay.
And so I said that, and so she said, well, this is the only, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't the book. I wish it was, but this wasn't the book. So she had the Lady's Book of Cosmetology, and she said, this is the only book you'll ever need. And so when I had the opportunity to go to West Africa, and big ups to Felton Thomas and Dr. Sadie Winlock, who who partnered with me, and gave me everything I need to put a library in that cosmetology school.
Okay.
Because to me, you cannot have any school without a library, even if it's just a bookshelf. You know, it's a book.
That's very true.
Because the students need to have some exchange of other school of thoughts.
Yeah.
And even though it's a vocation, it's not a university, I wasn't trying to say, have a whole science section, but one book.
Right.
And so when you read the history of Miladies, like, you might not want to mention it because you might not, they might come looking for you because they're running this, they're running this, you know what I'm saying? So it's very intense, but this platform is helping cosmetologists, and I do appreciate you.
It's taking it to another level.
Yes.
It's totally a different level.
Yeah. If you want to know more about that one book that Ladosha's talking about, pick up her book, What They Don't Tell You in the Hair Salon. It talks all about the history of educating people who are cosmetologists. And so we are almost winding down, so we're gonna just ask like one or two more questions. So one thing that I'm really curious about is, with this dynamic hair industry that we have today, what do you guys think Christina Jenkins might, how do you think she might interpret this hair industry today? Like, what would you think that how would she feel about what's happening now in the hair care
This is
industry?
what she would like for
I don't
if
think she would accept the things that are happening now.
Really?
No.
Why not?
It's not her technique.
Mm-hmm.
They're gluing hair on, they're coiling on,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't think that she would appreciate that.
this is what I think her dream was.
Yeah.
Her dream was to have hair weaving, her technique, in high schools, in cosmetology schools.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to be taught in cosmetology schools.
Yeah.
That was one of her dreams.
Yeah.
Her second dream was to be acknowledged as Madam C.J. Walker as well for her.
Oh, yeah.
But I do believe that Christina was versatile. She could go with the flow as long as it with what she was doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
She was open-minded, but she would like to have seen it in coffee houses.
Yeah. And what Ms. Sheryl was talking about with her not being accepting of what's happening now, because I mean, like you were saying, the gluing and everything, and a lot of that is very detrimental, you know, to hair. And so the hair weaving technique that Christina Jenkins patented was a lot more healthier.
Yes,
you know, it was you know, better for our hair.
Well, she shared with me that it was a requirement of Mrs. Jenkins, who could not compromise the integrity of the hair. You could not. A person can take out a hair addition today, and the hair could be no good. But with her technique, she said that if that was the case, you had to take her course and start all over.
Wow.
Now that might seem kind of harsh, but I can tell you, in becoming a certified master colorist, that standard is the same. If you mess up people's hair, that company will require that you come back to
Go back to class.
Yeah, so it sounds a little like I spent all my money. Well, you're representing the brand.
You're representing her brand.
And so that's that. It may seem like it's a little far-fetched, but you know, she had to have the standard that
she had the standard.
The hair had the integrity of the hair must be intact when you remove to go to redo the
hair weave.
Yeah.
And then too, she didn't allow anyone to bring in their own hair at all. You had to buy the hair from her.
Yeah.
Because you were, when you left out, you were leaving out with her brand.
Yes.
So her name was on the line, so it had to look like Christina's hair weave. Which you couldn't detect that it was a weave.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Ladies, is there anything that we haven't spoke about that you might like to touch on? Where can others find out information about Christina Jenkins?
Well, you know, I'm going to continue her Facebook. You can go on her Facebook. I'm going to set up an Instagram, and we're going to do a podcast.
Nice.
From here on.
Nice.
And I would like to use this opportunity to invite Clevelanders to participate in the Ubuntu Hair Love Project. And so this is funded by Neighborhood Connections, and it offers free support to Clevelanders who are dealing with this issue. If you're not a Clevelander, you can participate via Zoom, and it's still free. And we have some wonderful giveaways, some sponsors, Lisa Jean, Body Soufflés, we have Catlin Naturals,
and I love those
Body
products.
Butters, and we have a OBGYN, Dr. Sherry Thompson. She has a feminine, male and female personal hygiene cleansing products. So when you participate, you get these. You get a journal that was put together by Gwen Garth. She's of the Queens and Kings of Art. So she put that together, and you get a free book. So if you participate in person and you're a Clevelander, come on out. It's absolutely free. You can email me at ladoshaw@yahoo.com, or you can call here at the salon, 216-321-1101, and just say how I want to come in and participate. The lessons they recycle, every 4 weeks. So it is free, and we are doing a documentary on it to help bring some of these issues to light. So let's help change the narrative, and I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity to be able to say that.
And so do I, Dr. Ellington. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you so much, Ladosha, Ms. Sheryl, Ms. Goldie, for being a part of this. And I would like to invite you all, if you have not gone to the Textures exhibition, if you're interested in getting a book, the book is an award-winning book. Please check it out. You can get it on Amazon. You can also contact the Kent State University Museum and get a copy of the book. And if you're interested in more information about Textures, you can go to our website, texturesksumuseum.wordpress.com. And we have another event that's going to be coming up on March 4th. It's with April Bay. She's one of our artists. So please check out that event on March 4th at 12 p.m. It'll be hosted by my co-curator, Dr. Joseph Underwood. Yeah, it'll be online, yes. Yes, it'll be online, yes, yes. So, thank you ladies.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.